Good morning, and welcome to the Introducing Shavlik Protect 9.0 webinar. In today's webinar, we're going to introduce you to the Shavlik Protect 9.0 release. We officially released to marketing on the 15th of last week, and we've had quite a number of upgrades already. So for those of you already using the product, you've already seen some of the things that we'll be going through today. Thursday of this week, we will also be going through an upgrade webinar. The upgrade webinar is actually going to cover some of the nuances of the upgrade process. We'll discuss a few of those at a high level today, but it'll go into more detail for customers who are currently looking to upgrade and may want to know what things to expect when they do so. Just to begin with, we're going to go through a basic overview of Protect 9.0, some feature overview of the major features and some of the minor features, and then we'll get into the product demonstration. After the product demonstration, we will have some time for some questions and answers. During the presentation, hold on one second, please. Okay, it looks like the web audio might be having some problems. If Okay, I apologize for that. Some people were having some problems with the broadcast audio, it sounds like. All right, so we're going to go through a product overview, feature overview, and then through the product demonstration, and then we're going to get into some question and answer. So during the presentation, if you do have any questions, go ahead and post those through the Q&A feature of WebEx. We're going to try to get to any questions that come up during the presentation. Any that I do not get to, if you include your name and email address, I'll be able to follow up with you afterward and get you whatever answers that we don't get to online. All right. So the first thing I want to cover is just at a high level the major features of the Protect 9.0 release. This is a rather large release that's actually covering a bit more than would typically be covered in there, but the previous releases of the VMware vCenter Protect were covering some more license integration and things like that. So this release kind of was running on a parallel track and received quite a few additional features that didn't release into the other branch. So the first thing that you'll notice in Shavlik Protect 9.0 is we have rebranded back to the Shavlik brand. So all of those, anybody running on the VMware brand, obviously it'll upgrade automatically over to the Shavlik branding when you upgrade. This version of the product now includes a 64-bit edition. It also supports Windows 8 and Server 2012 for console installs. Obviously, scan and deployment was already working on that in the edX line. We are also now supporting SQL 2012 as a back-end database. So platform support-wise, we've done a number of enhancements here to bring our product up to the latest platforms and also enhance the architecture support of the product. There's two major features that we'll be covering in today's webinar. There's the Cloud Agent feature and also the VMware ESXi Hypervisor patching. These two major features are brand new to the product. We've extended platform and product coverage to cover the ESXi Hypervisor platform, We've also extended our ability outside the firewall through what we call the Protect Cloud. It's our hosted cloud services that are going to enable console to register in the cloud and allow agents to communicate back and forth without opening up risks on your firewall. And we'll also go through a number of minor enhancements that have been added to the product. Actually, it's a fairly long list of minor enhancements, and we'll get through as many of those as we can in the time we have here today as well. So the architecture and platform support, again, we're now supporting 64-bit, a 64-bit edition of Protect. For those of you who are running the 32-bit edition on a 64-bit OS, so 2003x64, Windows 7x64, any of the 64-bit platforms that you may be installed on today, when you install 9.0, you're going to be prompted with a question or a statement telling you that when we do the upgrade, we're going to convert you to the 64-bit edition. That's about as difficult as it gets. Once you click OK there, it's like any other Protect upgrade you've dealt with in the past. We're going to seamlessly uninstall the 32-bit edition and install the 64-bit edition. You won't have to do anything additional. We've added console support again for Windows 8 and Server 2012. So those of you looking to install a fresh console in your environment, you can install on the latest operating systems available. And we are also now supporting SQL 2012. If you do a brand new install of Protect and you don't have an existing database, you will be prompted with SQL Express 2012 as the default install, or you can point to an existing SQL Server 2012, or we still support 2008 and 2005 in this release. The first of the major features is the Cloud Agent. Again, this feature is extending coverage for the Shavlik Protect agent outside your firewall to make it so it's a more complete coverage for all of your end users, no matter where they may be located. So the key features here, you can register a Shavlik console with our Protect Cloud. Protect agents can communicate with that Protect Cloud to be able to gain updates to policy and return results. Agents outside the corporate wall are able to update policy and return results securely. When you register your console and when you register agents with that cloud service, there's encryption set up based on keys between the console and the agent, and that's all secure communication back and forth between console and cloud and agent and cloud. There's also an ability to install an agent completely outside the corporate wall. This is using our cloud services to create what's called a provisional key. That provisional key is then used to establish that trust between the agent and the cloud, and then the cloud and the console reconcile and establish the secure communication between cloud and agent through the cloud. Or I'm sorry, console and agent through the cloud services. So we'll cover that as far as how to register as well. The other major feature of Protect 9.0 is the VMware ESXi Hypervisor patching. This is, we're expanding the platforms supported for the first time outside the Windows platform. So now you'll actually be able to assess and remediate updates to your ESXi hypervisors. So the platforms supported do include ESX 4.0, ESX 4.0 and ESXi, or 4.1 and ESXi 4.1, and later, all the way up through 5.1 ESXi servers. We can enumerate and remediate updates to those hypervisors. We do support vCenter hosted servers and also standalone ESXi hypervisors. So if you're running the standalone free version, we'll be able to assess and remediate. If you're running several hypervisors within a vCenter server, we'll be able to support that as well. If your machines, your VMs within that infrastructure are configured for full DRS, we'll also support that. So when you do a deployment to those, you'll be presented with options on what you want us to do there, and we'll cover what those are. Some of the minor enhancements that we're going to be covering in today's webinar. A couple of enhancements for the machine groups. We've added the ability to comment on entities within the machine group, edit string entities. So if you add a machine name, have one character wrong, you want to edit that instead of removing and re-adding it, now you can select edit and re-add it back in with the adjustments. Same thing with any of the other string entities, which we'll show you here in just a little bit. We've added back in the ability to use many of the right-click actions from the machine's not scanned view. This is something that at one point was removed, but now, due to popular demand, has been brought back in this release. Another request by popular demand, we've added support for what's now being referred to as replacement patches. This is supersedence in the old Microsoft terms, but patch groups will now support those replacement patches even within the patch group itself. We've added enhanced scheduling options for distribution servers. In the Credential Manager, we've added a feature that allows you to view all credential usages. So you can now visualize everywhere in the product that a credential is being used if you have a question of if somebody added a credential and you're not sure where it's being used in the product, so you can visually see that now. We've added the ability to do cross-column searching in any of the console views. So if you're in the patch view or machine view and you type anything in, instead of selecting which column you want to search and then typing in what you want to search for, you just type in what you want to search for and it'll cross-column search the entire view. So it's a little bit more user-friendly there. We've added a new column in the scan results called a patch breakdown. This gives you a visual representation of how up-to-date that machine is based on that scan result. So it's a nicer, easier way to visualize the state of your environment and your machines. Another feature that was added is software end of life. So any products that we detect in your environment by a patch scan, we're going to also be able to tell you if that product has reached an end of life, and you'll be able to see that within your scan results. For those of you using the threat protection features of the product, if you're on the Advanced Edition, we have updated to the latest Viper engine, and we've also added some right-click actions to allow you to add detected threats to the allowed threats list of a policy from the quarantine or the detected threats view. So I'm going to switch over to the product at this point, and I'm going to start to walk through some of the different features and show you a little bit more about those. So the first thing, again, you'll notice is we have returned to the Shavlik branding of the product. So Shavlik Protect Advanced, Shavlik Protect Standard, those are the two additions that you will see. It will upgrade, again, seamlessly so that your vCenter Protect Standard or Advanced will convert directly over to the Shavlik Protect Standard or Advanced. The feature sets have not changed in any other way there. The two major features that we've added are both part of the standard feature set. So whether you're on standard or advanced, everybody is going to get the Cloud Agent and Hypervisor patching. We've got some navigation changes. You'll notice a few things across the toolbars and across the navigation there. We've kind of cleaned things up a little bit, regained some real estate. A lot of the toolbars that you had there before were kind of redundant within the file system as well. So what we've done is we've consolidated this down into a single bar at the top. The home button will obviously bring you back to the operations page. The new drop-down will have the ability to create a new object of any type within the product. So you don't have to switch to the machine group area to create a new machine group anymore. You can just click New Machine Group, and that will allow you to create a new machine group. Same thing with policies, templates, patch groups, anything that you could create before you can do quickly and easily from the new drop-down here. All of the views that were represented in a toolbar across the top before now are just in the view here and also have quick keys to all of those. And then between Manage and Tools, you've got all of your additional configuration options, managing your address book, credentials, manage items being your scan results and deployment results, manage scripts, role-based administration, custom patches, and scheduled tasks. Under Tools, you've got things like the custom patch editor, reporting, create reports from here, the run console IT scripts. You can also get into, we've split actually Tools options into two sections now. There's options and operations. Options are those things that you set once and kind of forget about. Things like the display, notifications and warnings, patch languages, some basic scan options are all contained within here. Operations includes all of the more detailed configuration options like download sources and frequency of downloading. There's an update for the auto download to allow you to schedule more in-depth downloads of the resource files. So any of our content that you want to download, the core engines and definitions or threat engines and definitions, you could set up specific schedules for those now. So I'm going to go ahead and add one here. I've got more robust scheduling options. Maybe I want to do the core engines and definitions daily at a specific time of day. And then maybe I want to set the threat definitions up for hourly every 4 hours. So now I've got two separate data download schedules set up in the background. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more capability for updating those. You can also select any of those things and run now to automatically force that job to execute right now. So if you wanted to make sure that it's running the latest threat definitions, you select the threat data job, click run now, and it will force that job to run immediately. Other things like data rollup, distribution servers, which also has some the same scheduling enhancements there, are also added in here. Database maintenance, protect cloud sync, which we'll go through in just a moment here as well. All of those are under the tools operations section. There's another new feature added called event history. This is, so all of those operations that you schedule to run in the background, this allows you to see a history of all those jobs and any information about those that you may need to be aware of. So here you can see I've got my hypervisor bulletin deployment. I ran on the 26th. That ran successfully, and I've got a history of that in here. I've also got different cloud sync operations that have run, and if I see any failures, I can see that that job failed here and a summary as to why. In this case, the cloud sync service could not be reached at the time. That was because I was actually disconnected at the time and it couldn't see those services. I've got another sync operation here that completed with errors. One or more failures occurred. Again, a remote connection could not be established when that job tried to run because I was disconnected at the time. Some other jobs that you'll see in here, different scheduled tasks, result imports. All of these different tasks are going to be visible through the event history. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get into the virtual inventory and the hypervisor patching. So a new view has been added to the product. For those of you who have already been using some of our offline VM features of the product, you're familiar with how to add a virtual server, vCenter, or ESXi's hypervisor directly through the machine group. We've now added the ability to add one through the Add New menu here. So you can add a vCenter or hypervisor server. When you do that, it will actually populate in this view here. So all your vCenter servers will be listed here with the hierarchy of all hypervisors that are managed by that vCenter. If you've got standalone hypervisors, they would be listed here. So those of you who already have registered hypervisors, you will actually see those populate here if you go to your virtual inventory. I'm going to go ahead and click on my vCenter server. What this is going to do is it's going to enumerate my vCenter server and all the hypervisors that are managed there, so I can now see everything in my virtual infrastructure. So I've got a number of hypervisors here. You can see a little bit of information about those, the IP address of the hypervisor, the if it's in maintenance mode right now or not, IP address, number of CPUs, memory, disk size, and version of the hypervisor. You can also, at the high level here, you can see the vCenter information. So I can see the build of my vCenter server, how much disk space is used, how many hypervisors total are managed, and in turn, how many VMs and templates are managed through that vCenter server as well. Down below, depending on what I'm selected on, I can also see all the VMs and templates that I've got managed here. You can also see details about those, like the tools version, whether tools are running, last known state of the VM, the type, if it's a VM or a template, CPUs, memory, disk, operating system, all that information is presented here. We've also given the ability to perform basic power state actions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on this VM right here. And it pops up on the other screen here, but that actually pops up in our operations monitor, sending the request over to the virtual infrastructure. And you can see here I've actually got my vCenter server up and running as well. You see the request came through, and that power on request was completed. So that VM is now powering up. Now if we look at the hypervisor level again here, we could see that there's an option here to scan all of the selected hypervisors that I have. So again, in the operations monitor, you will now see a scan operation pop up, and each of the hypervisors that I've got in my infrastructure are going to be assessed. Now, if you run into any errors or anything here, typically the most common here is going to be the HTTP service on the hypervisor might not be running, which will basically prevent you from getting out to get the latest XML from VMware for the assessment, and also the packages that you want to remediate later. So we do have knowledge base articles, and in the help system there's details about what permissions need to be set to be able to do the hypervisor scanning and deployment, and also settings that might need to be configured on those hypervisors. So as my operation's all complete here, one last one that seems to be taking a second longer. While that's going on, we can go ahead and switch over to the Bulletin View down below. So again, I'm selected on all of my hypervisors at the moment. And if you select the bulletins list down below, you'll see all of the bulletins that were detected here. So I've got quite a number of bulletins showing right now. Right now, it's showing everything that's missing on there. The default, if you assessed out of the box, would be to show only the latest results, which shortened up the list considerably to only those updates that are not replaced by something newer. So let me first of all find a hypervisor that's got some online VMs, something that'll let me show the DRS configuration. I think this is the one that oh, those are all powered off right now. So let me try 25 and see if that is configured properly. So if I'm on this hypervisor here, and I go to the Bulletin View, I can see all the updates that are available on there. And let's select one here. This, the impact of this one, this is important severity. It's a security update. It does require a reboot and maintenance mode. So this information here is all straight from VMware based on the bulletins that are released, and it shows the details about that update that we're about to deploy. And if I select to deploy that selected bulletin, I'll get a deployment window, similar to how we do the Windows patching. You're going to have some deployment options, but we're going to summarize the details around what we're going to be pushing to that machine. So right now it was just verifying everything that would happen in the background. I've chosen to deploy one bulletin. There are 3 VMs that could potentially be impacted by this deployment. One of them happens to be online. So in this case, the online VM being configured for DRS, we're able to enable these other options here. So if you want us to, we'll use DRS for this migration. We'll migrate, do you want us to migrate powered off VMs as well? So if there are offline VMs, if those are something that is supposed to trigger if a failure case occurs and they're supposed to power on at that time, you might want to move those as well for the duration of the maintenance window. So you can choose to migrate the powered off VMs as well if any VMs are not migrated. So if I deploy right now and this VM is not configured for full DRS, what do you want us to do with the VM afterwards? Do you want us to suspend it, shut it down, or cancel the deployment because you weren't expecting anything to be remaining on the hypervisor? And then afterwards, you can have us restore the VM power states after the deployment is complete. DRS is going to do its job and move things back into place once the hypervisor comes out of maintenance mode again as well. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy that update. Again, we've got integrated with the operations monitor. You're going to have a deployment, a bulletin deployment here. It's going to start talking to the virtual infrastructure. And actually, while that's running, we'll switch back over to our vCenter view here. You can actually see everything that I've been doing on the back end here. All the scans that occurred. When we did the deployment here, we're actually going to scan again to verify that everything is in the state that we assessed it in last. That way, if you did the assessment, something else occurred later on, you come back and choose to deploy. We're not going to redeploy something that's already updated. Now you see that it's staging the update. And you can see that the view here is showing the same information here in this status as well in our operations monitor. We're now migrating the virtual machine that was online in that environment. And you can see these messages are all coming in on 25. And WXP 4thin1 is the VM that was just migrated. And now we're entering that hypervisor into maintenance mode. Looks like somebody else may be doing some things as well, because I got some other virtual machines that are migrating as well. And once this completes, it will start the execution of the patch. It will, so now you can see my hypervisor is in maintenance mode, and the install is executing. And we'll also go through and we'll trigger the restart. We will also bring it back up and move everything, turn everything back onto its original state after we're done. A couple of things to keep in mind when you're doing a hypervisor deployment. There's two possible things that can become problematic when you're deploying to your hypervisors. The first one is vCenter. If you're running vCenter, your vCenter server, if it's a virtualized Windows server that's running vCenter, could be on the hypervisor that you're patching. VMware recommends that you configure that VM for DRS so that if you enter into maintenance mode, the vCenter server will move over to another hypervisor within the infrastructure, and you won't have any major interruptions to your infrastructure by accidentally shutting down your vCenter server. The same thing for if you're running the virtual appliance. You do want to make sure that those would be configured for full DRS if that's the case. The Protect console is the other consideration. I know many customers, and probably many of you on the call with us today, have your Shavlik Protect console in your virtual infrastructure. That's perfectly fine. We support that, not a problem at all. You just want to make sure that it is configured for full DRS. That way, when you do trigger a deployment, you're not going to shut down your console in the process of doing this. One thing about this feature is we are interacting with the vCenter or ESXi hypervisor directly throughout this process. If you kill vCenter or you kill the Protect console during that process, you may get an interruption in feedback, and also it may cause your hypervisor to remain in maintenance mode after the job is completed. And then you'll have to go in and manually kick that back into out of maintenance mode and back into normal mode. So just a couple things to consider there. They are, unfortunately, they're, you know, it's the nature of virtualization. You just put some of your core servers on top of your infrastructure, and if you reboot that infrastructure, those things need to move around, or they'll be rebooted along with that infrastructure. So right now we're at the process of waiting for that shutdown, and then waiting for that host to restart, and then we'll be finalized. So those of you who, you know, this is something that during the development process and while we were going through beta, I talked to many of the vCenter Protect customers about how they were managing their hypervisors. And for the enterprise customer, it's very simple. They've got a great solution through the image updates. You image your hypervisors every time they reboot, and all you have to do then is apply your updates that you want directly to the image. Every time your hypervisor reboots, it's fully up to date. Well, that's only available in the enterprise versions of the vSphere suite. In standard and below, you have VUM, command line, or not at all. And the majority of customers that I discussed this feature with, those who did attempt to use VUM found it very difficult to set up and configure, and found it unreliable at times. So that wasn't a great solution. And then you've got the command line mode, which, if you're familiar with the ESXi Hypervisor command line, it's extremely powerful. You can do pretty much everything from command line, or even from PowerShell, PowerCLI. But for those who didn't have the time or the expertise, a lot of them were not updating the hypervisor. Well, the hypervisor is the base, the backbone of your infrastructure for all your virtual environment. If you don't update that and it gets exploited, you could be in a much larger downtime than even a single endpoint within that infrastructure being compromised. So this feature is, again, coming in at the low end of the VMware customer side for those standalone hypervisors, the essentials, the standard customers, trying to give them another option that's quick and easy to use and help them start to manage that virtual infrastructure and make sure it's secure and up to date. All right, so the operation is complete here, and things are moving back into place here. So my update is now complete. And all of that, I did not have to do any command line. I pretty much was able to go through, and we even sat here and watched it the entire time. If I didn't want to do that, I wouldn't have had to sit here and babysit it the whole time, because it ran smoothly without any intervention on my part. I'm going to run a reassessment here, and we'll see this update is now applied. All right, that's complete. Refresh my hypervisor, and we'll see that my bulletins are all up to date, except for, well, the one that I pushed is up to date now. All right, there we go. So that's the hypervisor patching and virtual inventory features. We're going to switch gears, and we're going to go over to the cloud agent feature now. So let me show you a couple of things here first. So again, the premise behind the cloud agent feature is we are getting into a day and age where, the Visio network is no longer the reality. IT admins are dealing with machines going in and out of the environment, the BYOD initiatives where people are bringing their own machines in, working from home a lot more telecommuting. So there's a lot more to deal with as an IT admin. So the limitation of an agent that has to go outside, we've always had the ability to continue working outside the environment as long as it comes back in and reports home at some point. So many customers were doing things like putting a console in the DMZ so they could expose that and make it so the agents in the field could keep running without having to, talk back to the console at any given time. The other issues there are, what about machines that persist outside the environment? So if I've got field reps in my sales force, if I've got a remote office running a handful of people there, I maybe try to do things like cut costs by not having persisting VPN tunnels or WAN connectivity between those sites. This feature allows me to start to bridge that gap a little bit more. So I've already cloud-enabled all my things like CRM and email and things like that. But now, as an IT admin, I also need to make sure those endpoints are still secure. So the cloud agent feature is going to help bridge that gap. So the first thing we need to do is we need to enroll our console in the cloud services. So we're going to go under Tools Operations, and we're going to go to the Protect Cloud Sync tab here. If this is your first time, you're going to create your Protect Cloud account. I'll click on that, and that brings up the registration page on the protectcloud.shavlik.com site. You'll register your email address there. If you want this to be used across many admins, you may want to choose a common support address that you can all log in as. Once you've registered, then the main login page, if you just go to protectcloud.shavlik.com, you'll get there and you'll be able to sign as well. We'll show you that in just a moment. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to enter a credential, which I've already got my Protect Cloud account entered. That'd be my email address and password that I just registered under. And I'm going to register this console. Okay, you see it came back saying the console is now registered. That's as difficult as it is to register your console. So if I go back to the cloud side here, oh, wrong address. Log into my cloud account, I can now see that I've got a registered console. Right now, there's no agents, provisional or in cloud-enabled running right now. There's 0 results in queue, and it has not synced recently. So we're going to go through a couple other things here, and we'll come back to this site. Now that I'm registered, I can save that. If I've already got agent policies and agents in the field, and I want to enable this for those, I can then go to the menu here and down to agent policies. And I'm going to go into my new agent policy. And in the policy, there's a checkbox. So you can enable this by policy. If you want some machines to be cloud-enabled and others not to be, you can choose which ones you want to do. So I'm going to enable this policy to sync with the Protect Cloud. Once I save this, any agents that already exist in my environment are going to check in, see that policy update, enable that feature, and automatically in their policy know how to communicate with the Protect Cloud. Oh, my agent didn't respond there, but that's because he's not listening at the moment. So my agent policy is now ready to go. So I've got an agent machine that I'm going to install on. So this is an XP machine in a different environment, and it cannot reach the console. So if you look here, pinging the console machine timed out, and trying to reach that then, if I tried to install the agent through the old method, would fail as well. So what we need to do is we need to set up a provisional agent install. So I'm going to go back into my cloud interface, go to my agent keys, and I'm going to create, oh, I got to synchronize my console yet. Typically, within 15 minutes of any change, the cloud is going to be synchronized and have any of those updates taken into account. But since we're running through this very quickly, you'll see me go and refresh some things once in a while here. All right, so bring up my console UI, create a new key, and now you see that I've got a policy that's cloud enabled. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to say I'm going to allow it up to 100 installs, and I'm going to say that this has a time to live of 24 hours. I can also, when I create this key, I can automatically send it to specific users by email. Or I can send myself a copy, and from there I can distribute it out to a mailing list through my email service. So I'm going to create that key, and I would get back an email that looks like this. Everything that's needed to do with the Cloud Agent install then is all contained within this email. If the end user that receives this is a full admin on their machine, they download the agent updater, they copy this key and run through the instructions, and that allows them to install the agent completely outside your environment. So again, any agents that you've already deployed, once you cloud enable them, they'll know how to talk to the Protect Cloud. Any new agents you deploy through the traditional methods, either pushing it out directly or installing it through a script or anything else within your network, if they're a cloud-enabled policy, they'll be able to talk to the cloud as well. For a machine that cannot resolve the console, go over here. I'm going to install that agent here. Come on, catch up. There we go. Oh, like I typoed. All right. So now, if I were an MSP or if I were the end user that the admin sent me the email to be able to register that agent, I would be able to go through the instructions and do that. In this case, I'm, say I'm an admin working for an MSP and I'm on site at the location where I'm going to be installing some agents. I can actually log into the cloud, get the agent download directly from here, run it, install, and the agent UI is pretty much the same as what you've used before for a manual agent install. When it gets to the point where it needs to register, so my setup is complete, I click Finish, now it's going to register. It's going to ask me if I'm going to register through the cloud or through a console. In this case, I'm going to pick through the cloud. My key is already pasted in there because I have it copied to the clipboard, and I'm going to click Register. Okay, my registration succeeded. Now, if we go back to our registered consoles, I can see my console, and I can see that I've got one provisional cloud agent, and I've also got one cloud agent that's already enabled. That's actually the agent that I've got on my console machine that's already installed. It updated its policy and registered itself as an enabled cloud agent as well. So my provisional agent, this guy is basically in a waiting pattern. If I were to open the agent UI right now, I would see that the agent is provisionally registered. It's basically waiting on the console to acknowledge that it's allowed to be an installed agent. If I go back to my console, we're going to time-lapse this a little bit here. You wouldn't have to do this. Typically, it's going to be a matter of like 5 to 15 minutes for a provisional agent to get fully registered. I'm going to force that update right now. Save that. And going back to my machine here, actually I can go back here and look at this. So the cloud has now acknowledged that provisional agent and confirmed, yes, you're allowed to be a fully registered agent under my management. Now if we go back to the agent, he still hasn't checked in again to verify that. And again, it'd be about another couple of minutes here, but we'll go ahead and force this. On next agent check-in then, it verifies, oh, hey, I've got a policy now. I'm a fully registered agent. And it now loads up. I know exactly what console manages me. I know exactly what policy I'm running. Even though I'll never, ever see the console directly, I'm fully managed. That's how easy it is to cloud enable an agent installed outside of your environment. Again, agents that already exist within your environment, once you cloud enable your policy, all those agents will start checking in through the cloud if they don't see the console directly. All right. So that is the cloud agent feature. Let's see where I am in my checklist. We're down to some more of the minor features. Run through a few more of these real quick, and then we'll get to some questions that I see are starting to populate. So a couple enhancements to the machine group. The machine group now has the ability to do a modify of any entities below. So let's say I mistyped my machine name and I wanted to modify that. Now I can just select the entity I want to modify, click modify, it goes back up here, and now I can change it to the correct name. Same works for IP addresses, IP ranges, domain, OU, anything you have down here you can modify. It will bring you up to the proper place in the UI, populate everything back in, and you can make the character change that you wanted, re-add that back in. Add my credential back on here. And I'm all set to go. The other feature that we've added in here is the ability to add notes on any entities within here. So let's say that I am one of 3 admins that is responsible for my server environment. The Citrix admin emails me saying, hey, you know, I know you've got maintenance scheduled for this Friday night. I really need to postpone the Citrix environment until Saturday instead. So can we push that off until then? All right, sure. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, select this, and I'm going to say exclude this the next time we scan. I'm also going to add a note here saying and then maybe I put my name in there and stuff as well, so that, you know, if one of the other admins comes in, sees the machine group, says, hey, wait a second, why is the Citrix server excluded? Oh, wait, it's because Chris said that somebody needs that to be online at that time. We can't reboot it, so we're postponing until a different window. So a couple of new features added to the machine group to give people a little bit more flexibility in editing, and also the ability to add notes to manage different situations that come up, especially in like a multi-admin environment. All right, I'm going to save that and move on to the next. Machines not scanned. See if I can go to a result that I've got here. Oh, that's a power status scan. Let me do a scan result real quick. So while this scan is running, we'll talk about a couple of the other features as they pop up here. You see a couple of new columns in here, the patch breakdown and the end-of-life product. Patch breakdown, you're going to see this as we start to get assessments completed. You'll see a visual representation of the status of that machine. So based on everything that we can scan for, it's going to break down and based on a point scale, show how many missing or installed patches there are by indicating green or red or yellow for service packs, showing you visually how bad off a machine might be at a quick glance. The end-of-life products is a summary of all products in that machine that have a defined end-of-life date. So as the machines scan here, you'll see those 2 columns start to populate. And you'll be able to see these through other views throughout the product as well. The other 2 columns at the end here, the error code and status. So you see all of these machines here that came back. The machines not scanned always get an error code and a status message telling you why that machine failed to scan. So we've actually broken that out a little bit easier so that we could reduce some size in the database for one, and also so that we could give an easier view to be able to see, you know, what the error code is, and then see the more detailed status message as well as 2 separate columns, so they're easier to work with. Just failed machines so far. A bunch of them that either don't exist or I don't have access to, so some of the ones that I should have access to should be finishing up shortly. Now, while that's going on, I think we may need 1 successful scan before we get our result populated over here. All right, so we got a successful machine here. 0 missing service packs, 84 missing patches. So you see here, I've got you know, a couple installed patches, but mostly missing patches. So that's where it's showing all the red there. But a very clear indicator that this machine is in sore shape. And then I've got 1 product on there that is end of life. Getting some more machines populated there, and you can see some more color coming into this. These are representing service packs. So depending on how many total patches or service packs detected, you'll see the color indicators kind of adjust for the total count of items on that machine and give you a decent representation of what that machine is looking like. There we go. I'm going to switch over to my result here and show you the machines not scanned features that have come back in now. All right. So I'm still running the scan, but right now we've got a bunch of machines that failed to scan. I could actually go in here and I've got 2 501 errors. That's a really easy issue to resolve. If I got into those 2 machines using the MMC for services, I could actually turn on the remote registry service and set that to automatic startup, and then I can right-click here and go back to rescan these using one of the scan templates that I have. So the ability to get back in and use those right-click options to either add these to a machine group to follow up with or automatically go in and rescan them is something that a lot of people found valuable, and we brought back for that reason. Not a very obvious thing to look at just from a demo, but again, we updated the Viper engine to the 6.1 engine. So those of you running the Advanced Edition with threat protection, that's running the latest SDK. And the ability to right-click and add things to your policy to the allowed threats list has been added as well. Credential Manager, we've added the ability to go in and view all usages of a credential. So again, in a multi-admin environment, if somebody added in a credential that you don't recognize, like I've got this administrator account, which looks like it's a local admin account, and then I've got this administrator account, which is clearly a domain admin account. So what's the difference and why are we using it in certain areas? So I viewed the usage on this particular credential, and I can see all the different places that this has been used and the usage type. So a bunch of these were set at a machine level. And then it was used in a couple of places at a group or admin level in machine groups. So you can see that this is in a machine group called IP range at the group level. This is a machine group item at an admin level, and it's specifically in the machine group IP range under the IP range, which is defined right there. So you can see absolutely everything about that credential throughout the product. So now I know, okay, obviously this credential is used in a number of places, and I know exactly why that's being used there. What about this credential here? It's also an administrator credential. In this case, this one is used at the vCenter server level. So maybe I've got a different default administrator account that's being used at those 2 levels. I have a distinct reason why I do need both of those in there, though. So now I know, yes, I do need those unique instances of administrator within my Credential Manager. End-of-life information, we showed you a little bit already, but let me show you a couple more things real quick here. So let's grab a machine with several products that have been end-of-life. So now you can see there's an end-of-life column for these, and I can see an end-of-life date for each of those products that exist on that machine. And if I go down into the installed and missing, I'll also see, okay, this version of Thunderbird was end-of-life, this version of Firefox was end-of-life, so I've obviously got some newer updates to those that need to be applied. And then you can see again if any of these had an end-of-life date as well, which I think, yep, there's a couple more down here. So you can see here I've got a really old QuickTime, Acrobat, SeaMonkey, a bunch of these products that are currently end-of-life and probably very insecure at this point. Those might be a high priority for me to update. So again, some more information to help you assess and make decisions in your environment. Talked about the patch breakdown. Patch type. So down in the patch pane now, we've added the patch type column. So this was by request of many users who, this was something that existed in the patch view, but we've now brought it into the scan view at a patch level so that you can see clearly, in this case I've got all security patches, but if I had some non-security patches, a security tool, or a software distribution, I'd be able to see the types for those and understand the difference between those. If I saw 2 Acrobat items, one of them is probably a security patch, the other one is the software distribution, I'd be able to see which is which. So it helps clarify a few things at that level, so it's a little bit easier to discern which is which. All right, that's the majority of the minor features here as well. There's, I've probably missed some things here because, again, we had a tremendous amount of customer requests, feature requests that have been added in there. There's a number of other minor nuances in things like deployment templates and such, where we've changed something from a checkbox to a radio button and made it a little bit clearer to understand what you're doing when you're selecting things. There's quite a number of those. It would take a long time to get through them all, and we're already running short on time. So I'm going to switch over to some question and answer and see how many of these I can get to before we're done. The first question is from Brian. Is the agent 64-bit now as well, and will upgrading clients with 32-bit agent to 64-bit be as seamless? So the agent, you know what, I'm going to have to double check on that, Brian, because I know the engines in a lot of cases were already updated to 64-bit, but I don't know about the agent itself. That may still be 32-bit. So what I'm going to do on that one, Brian, is I'm going to take a note here and follow up with you about that. But by the way, when we do get to that point, yes, it would be as seamless of an upgrade, if it's not already. The next question was from Roberto. VMware updates, extra costs are included in the current license. That is included. Both the hypervisor patching and cloud agents are included for all standard and advanced customers. The next question is from Joe. Is there going to be a cost? Nope. The ESXi support is included in the base cost. So when you upgrade to 9.0, that will automatically be enabled for you. So out of the box, you will be able to assess and update your ESXi hypervisors. Next question was from Nathan. In previous webinar 9.0, the presenter mentioned that the cloud agent does not communicate with scan engines or patch XML data. So engines and XML data will still come from our XML download servers. So this is still the case, and the benefit of the cloud-enabled console is so the cloud console, that's where your policy updates and your results can pass back and forth between agent and console when it's outside the firewall. So if you were currently running on a model where you've got a DMZ server that's running a console, so you could do that, you could actually migrate that inside the firewall and protect that console more, and the cloud actually acts as a proxy between the console and the agents. So the agent will still be able to get XML updates and patches, engines, everything else straight from each of the vendors. Our cloud services are merely a gateway to communicate between the console. Next question is from Kara. Have you added in the ability to sort results? I'm guessing you mean results on the left side here. The sorting is still the default way of sorting there, so no changes to that sorting. Next question from David. Does scanning the ESXi host install an agent on the EXS host? No. We actually communicate directly with vCenter or the ESXi directly. There's no agent installed on the host. Do the hardware requirements change for 9.0? So Roberto, no, the hardware requirements have not changed. But you know, one thing that I always do recommend is, you know, the minimum requirements are obviously bare minimum requirements. So if you're in an agentless environment and you're trying to do a high volume of machines in a short period of time, I do recommend taking a look at our best practice guide, which can be found in our online documentation, which I'll refer to here in just a little bit, for some guidance around sizing for machines. Next question was from Brian. Will we have warning that the target does not have enough free space during a scan as opposed to finding out during the deployment attempt? So Brian, the scan does not look at file disk space or anything like that at that time. It does not know the size of everything that you would choose to deploy at that point either. So that does happen at the deployment time. If you're doing an agentless deployment, you would get a failure message for that machine right away if it calculates that it could not deploy. Couple other questions here. Question from Jeff, are credentials shared across users? Jeff, currently no. Credentials are per user. They're encrypted per user for security reasons. You know, we've kind of touched on that a few times, but so far we've stuck with encrypting those within a user profile. We're actually right now looking at some migration tools for our next release coming this fall. So this is kind of a heads up for everybody who is on older platforms. We're actually looking at ways to allow you to migrate off of XP and 2003 systems that may be running a console. So in lieu of Microsoft ending support for those platforms, we're also gearing up to make it so that you have a migration path and an easy migration so that things like scheduled tasks, background tasks that are synced like the distribution servers, download of files, all those things, agents, everything that would need to be migrated, we're going to create some tooling that will allow you to do that. Credentials is one of the things that we're looking at there. So with that, I'm not sure if we're going to bridge the gap between users with credentials as well yet or not. It's something that's being discussed, though. Another question about sharing a SQL server between multiple consoles. Jeff, yes, this is supported. You can have multiple consoles sharing a SQL backend. In that case, then, you've got multiple consoles that can run jobs independent of each other and scan and deploy to different machines at the same time. That gives you a lot more flexibility to utilize more hardware and such so you can get faster scan times, things like that. You can also have multiple admins log in through RDP to the same server and use the same console as well, but in that case, you're sharing resources. See if I got to everything in here. Looks like I've got one more question here from Joe. Can you go over the PowerShell feature? Yes, we can go over that real quick. Before I do that, let me do a couple more things, and then we can start to go into other feature questions. Switch back to my PowerPoint presentation. We've kind of already gone through some of the Q&A. A couple other things I wanted to touch on. Our online documentation is updated, so all the 9X documents are up there, upgrade guide, administrative guide, best practices guide, everything is out there that's available already. We've got a number of new training videos in the on-demand training as well. So if you go to www.shavlik.com, you'll be able to get to all of that very quickly and easily. So you'll see online documentation and on-demand training links here, and all the new videos and everything available, as well as the new documentation. So just to let everybody know that those are all available. And if you are going through the upgrade process anytime soon, we are going to go through a more detailed upgrade process from a 8X version running on 32-bit to the 9X version, which will convert you over to 64-bit, and we'll talk about some of the other nuances of the upgrade as well. A little bit of it will be similar to what we covered today, but that will be focused more on the current customer, current feature set than the new features. And then you can sign up for additional webinars and also check back to find replays of existing webinars on our webinars page as well, which is also accessible from the main Shavlik site. Switching back over to, looks like we got a couple more questions in here. I'm going to cover the PowerShell feature in just a moment. But Nathan had one more question about the cloud agents. Does cloud-enabled agents still require the same ports to be opened as agents connecting directly to the console? In this case, the cloud agent connects directly to the Protect Cloud over HTTPS. So that should be available already. So there's no additional ports to open for the cloud agent feature. One thing to note is the ad hoc requests from the console are only if you can see the agent directly. So if I wanted to right-click on a machine and execute a agent task directly, I would have to be able to see that agent, and that would have to be enabled in the policy to allow the ad hoc tasks. That's not something that we included in the initial go-around here to be able to pass those ad hoc requests out to the cloud yet. So Nathan, hopefully that answers your question. And Mike, cloud agents will get their patches directly from the vendor, so directly from Microsoft, Adobe, Java, and so forth, and their XML and engines directly from the XML Shavlik.com. All right, so the scripting feature for Joe. We've got a number of scripts that we support within the product that allow you to take several out-of-the-box PowerShell scripts and run them against machines in your environment and simplify the process of actually executing, gathering all the information, and so forth. So we've got our full script catalog if you're on the advanced edition. There's some of these that are only available for advanced customers, so you'll see a few more in here than what other customers may have. I'm going to go ahead and approve those, close out of here, and then I can go and look at any of my machines, and let's say I want to know when the last time these 3 machines rebooted was. Now I'm going to be able to right-click there, go to my IT scripts and run a script, and I'm going to get what was the name of that? Get reboot time. There we go. Run that script. And what it's going to do is PowerShell in this case is only running on the console machine. The targets don't have to be running PowerShell. What I'm doing is I'm using standard ports, protocols, everything else, similar to how our agentless scanning works, and I'm talking directly to that machine and getting all the information I need. In this case, I'm probably talking to WMI to be able to get at the information that I need. So you can see here the 3 machines that I'm connecting to. The credentials for these are the same credential that I used to scan them earlier. I didn't have to re-enter anything here. I didn't have to figure out how do I distribute a script to be able to run against all those machines and then collect those results and bring them back. It's doing it all for me. So now I've got 3 machines, ran that script against them. I didn't have to go out and find the script, make sure it works on 2008, XP, Windows 7, 2012, and so forth. We're going to go and update those things so you don't have to maintain those. You also get all that feedback directly. If there was an error, you would have gotten information directly in the UI about the error message. You also get historical reference of that as well. So I can go over here and view my IT script results and see a history of any script runs that I've done. In this case, let's look at everything from today, and I've got the 3 machines that I just ran against, and actually let me refresh that. There we go. Got their last reboot time, and I can see when, any time that I've run that, what that information is showing. So it's a very quick and easy way to be able to run scripts against machines in your environment. Let's see here. If I run another script, I could have this machine run a disk defrag. I can disable common updaters like Adobe Flash, Adobe Reader, Java, Apple Auto Update, Mozilla Updates, a lot of those things that you may want to turn off there. Disable or enable RDP, disable USB disk service, a number of different things that admins typically have to use in their environment. Other things like terminating a process. Right now, this is going to just terminate a generic process, but if I wanted to configure that to terminate a process that I always have to go and tweak on a certain machine, I can actually go and create an IT script template, and I can create it for terminate process, and then I can go in here and I can actually edit which process I want to terminate, and I'd be able to change that to whatever process I want. Reader.exe, maybe I want to kill that on a target machine. So I can actually create and save templates doing specific things with minor adjustments to the scripts that we release canned versions of. For advanced users, there's also the ability to incorporate with our product and use all the things like right-clicking on this machine here and running the IT script uses a number of commandlets that we've developed on our own. How to target a machine using our product. So make that script able to receive the machine and credential that I've specified within the product and use that securely. How to have the script pass feedback into the operations monitor while the script is executing. To handle errors, to handle the final status information, how to output results into a CSV file or a text file and make it so that the product knows how to link directly to that result and allow you to open it on disk or open to the folder where it's located. So a number of those things, we've got documentation on how to script and incorporate those features through our product to enable you to do even more with the scripting feature. So Joe, hopefully that answers your question about the scripting. I think that I've gotten to all questions that were posted here. So thank you for joining us today. I know we went a little bit over on time. We're at about 12:15 now. We appreciate you joining the webinar today. If there are any other questions after the call here today, if you do have more follow-up, you can always email protect-help@shavlik.com, and we'll be able to respond back to your questions as soon as possible. A recorded version of this webinar will be made available as soon as possible on that webinars page later this week. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.